It was too much. I was overworking myself. Anybody would kind of break or crack under that. Psychologically, it was like, oh my God, it's gonna go wrong. I just built up this unbelievable resilience.
This is Teacher Talk.
Oh, that's a nice title, isn't it?
The summer of 2021 was actually the first summer that you hadn't done any work, really. How was that like, having a break?
Yeah, it was a bit strange because I think for the previous 6 summers I'd had some sort of work, but it was also expected because nobody was traveling, or people weren't sure about traveling. People still felt a bit unsafe. The industry, this industry in general, wasn't doing very well because it relies heavily on people traveling to the UK. So I didn't even try, to be honest. I just thought, it's pointless. There's not going to be much work. So there's less work, but the same competition. So I just made the decision, stay in Lisbon for the summer. So that's what I did.
And what was that like? Beaches every day? Or?
Basically, yeah, it was great. I got a lovely tan.
And how did that feel? Did it actually feel like a break, or was it just like a pause in the inevitability train of Language for Life?
Yeah, I suppose a bit of both, really. And then, given sort of even though it had been a great year, everything that had happened before that, COVID was a mess, and then the year coming up, it was a perfect time actually to have a break, to kind of just reset and just enjoy. Lisbon was starting to open up again. Just enjoy Lisbon and enjoy. How often would I get to spend? Usually I'm in the UK for the summer, so it was nice to spend the summer in Portugal. I very rarely do it, so it was great. And
where was you mentally at this period?
I felt great. It felt like sort of probably one of the best sort of periods in my life at that time. I genuinely felt really, really good. I don't know, got my mojo back, I guess. Everything was back on track. I had a direction and everything was just going in the right direction, I'd say. So yeah, I felt really great.
So moving it over to work, obviously you've gone back to the same school as the last year, if I'm not mistaken. How was that?
Again, it's something that doesn't happen, certainly for me anyway. In the previous 10 years, let's say, there was only one school, one time it had happened where I had that sort of continuity. That was Napoli. Every other school, I'd done maximum a year. So for only the second time in my career, I was going back to the same school. Same setup, same staff, same team. So yeah, again, everything felt like it was in place.
And at this time, your private students started recommending you as well. Was it at that time you realised how important word of mouth is? Absolutely, and I think in any business, it's probably one of, if not the most important things. You can have all of the social media you want, you can have all of the marketing you want, but there is nothing more impactful than somebody that's already worked with you. They know exactly what you provide, what you produce. So their voice, their opinion, their recommendation, it's like gold, So that started to happen. And given the fact that a year before, I'd never been to Portugal, I didn't know a single Portuguese person, nobody knew me, all of a sudden I'm now getting emails from people wanting English lessons. So it was great. And I'm assuming that instilled in you that Language for Life was going to be a success. Yeah, absolutely. I had and have never had any doubts. It just felt like, again, step by step, it's like, okay, now this is step B. Okay, so what's step C, what's step D? So yeah, it felt like things were really moving forward. I know you previously mentioned in another episode about doing other teaching certification. Mm-hmm. It was at this time you started looking into the CELTA. Yeah. And to do that. Why at this time? So this was my 10th year in teaching. As you said in the previous episode, I was going to do the Delta. So I looked into doing the CELTA, which is a certificate in English language training for adults. And it's kind of like the first big step. I've explained that previously. And I don't know, there was an opportunity. There was one, it was online from March until May for 10 weeks. I just saw it as an opportunity and I thought it's now or never. And just to have the experience that I had then backed up with the certificate, I felt it was the right time. And it was more of a personal reason rather than a professional one. And I'm glad I did it. You said it was more of a personal
reason than a professional. Could you explain a little bit more what you mean by that?
Just, maybe it's 'cause there's something to do with the fact that it was my 10th year. It felt like a bit like a landmark. And I felt like there was always that missing from my sort of career. At this stage, I felt very much like a teacher. I was a teacher, but perhaps it just felt like there was always that something missing, like a niggle in the back of my mind. Not having the qualification maybe it just made me feel like, yeah, okay, maybe I'm not the full package yet. Maybe I'm not the full teacher yet. So I think that's all it was. It's just because it was missing from my CV, I think, and I just wanted to perhaps just tick that box off.
So the start of the year seems to be going great.
Yeah.
But before you actually started your CELTA, things took a little bit of a turn, and you got told you need to move out.
Yeah, it just feels like over the last 10 years, nothing has just quite gone, smoothly. Something always comes up. And so, yeah, that time I sort of was getting ready to do the CELTA, which in itself is really it's a full-time thing. Anybody who's done it will tell you it's full on, it's very intense. But I was teaching 30 hours a week as well. And again, even though, people say, oh, it's not a 37.5-hour contract. Teaching 30 hours a week it's not a common schedule. I was working full-time teaching. I was doing a full-time course as well. I got COVID around that time. So my health wasn't the best. I was looking for jobs in the summer. And then to get told, Kane, you have to move out. It was just like, why can nothing just go smoothly? But I understood it. My landlord was honest with me from day one. Basically, they sold the apartment as like a short-term rental, weekends maximum a week, because they earn more money. But because of COVID, they couldn't do that. People weren't traveling. So for the landlord and myself, it was a win-win. It was a perfect situation. He rented out the apartment for almost 2 years, didn't lose out on rent. I got a nice deal, but he did tell me we're going back to short-term rentals. And it wasn't like, listen, he said, right, you've got to move out next week. They were super cool about it. They did give me time, because I told them, listen, I'm just going to start doing this course. I need stability. I can't be trying to find a place to live. So they actually extended it, I think until sort of mid-June. They wanted me out pretty quickly, but they were so cool. They could have got me out straight away, but they didn't. They gave me that time. But yeah, it was just another thing of just go smoothly.
So it sounds rather intense, a lot going on with work, health and home. Was there any moment within that you felt like you was going to break?
Yeah, I definitely break, yeah, 100%. It was too much. I was overworking myself. My schedule was really intense. I told you before, I had a whiteboard in my attic, my office. On the whiteboard, I like doing this, having my schedule. So Monday to Sunday, I know all of my lessons. This is when I'm going to do my lessons. I had the CELTA on there as well. You need to do this assignment. You've got that meeting. You've got this thing to do. I was even putting when I would eat lunch here, dinner here, going for a run here, literally from Monday to Sunday, morning, afternoon, evening. Every section was filled with something. And there was one day I was in the office. I was doing some work for the CELTA for one of the assignments, and I panicked. I was like, oh my God, I forgot I've got a lesson. And I looked at my whiteboard. I was trying to figure out what lesson I have, and then I realized it was a Sunday. But I had no lessons on Sunday. So that's where my mind was. It was just everywhere for 10 weeks. It was intense.
So at that time, what actually kept you going?
I think it was the thought of the school. It was the business. It was language for life. It was knowing that I was doing all of this for a reason. It was there was light at the end of the tunnel. The CELTA course wasn't forever. It was 10 weeks. I knew when that was going to end. I had reduced some of my hours, or I think one of the lessons one of the groups had come to an end anyway. So my hours had reduced, so it was a bit more manageable. And if you looked at everything sort of as one sort of entity, trying to find a new place to live, doing a CELTA, working full time, applying for jobs for the summer. If you looked at everything, anybody would kind of break or crack under that. But one thing that I'm pretty good at, and I think this has helped massively with sort of Language for Life and growing the business, is you just have to compartmentalize everything, break it down, okay, separate everything, and then again, just it's little steps. All right, just do this task for the CELTA, just do this lesson plan for this group, send this email for a summer job, and just break it down into much smaller, more manageable and achievable goals. So that's the way that I got through it. Just breaking everything down, simplifying it, and taking it step by step.
I think that's it's like anything for life, really. Break it down step by step.
But it's a skill that you have to acquire over a period of time, because most people, I think, I don't know, but most people, it's really, really hard to do that. They just see everything and it's really overwhelming. It's a skill, and it takes a lot of time to be able to do that, to break it down. But you're absolutely right.
So you officially left Lisbon in June 2022. How did that come about?
So obviously I had to leave the flat, but I made the decision then to go to a different city. At that time, Lisbon, it's ridiculously expensive. The cost of living in terms of rent is so high. And I was working for Portuguese schools, working with Portuguese people, earning a Portuguese salary. So the thing about Lisbon is it's really imbalanced with the average salary, the average Portuguese salary versus the cost of living in Lisbon. Mm-hmm. They don't match. It's really, really tough for people to live in Lisbon under a Portuguese salary. And I didn't want to rent a room in a house share or a flat share or whatever. I wanted my own place. And basically in Lisbon, it just wasn't affordable. So I had to move to a different city. So for the first time, I was able to visit different places and just get a feel for places before I actually went there, and make a choice based on what I saw, by visiting them.
So as you mentioned, you had a travel round. Where did you find what actually place stood out to you?
Well, initially I wanted to be next to the sea, and Portugal has a lot of coastline. So the first thing was I was looking at places next to the sea. There were a couple of cities, towns that had decent sort of public transport links, whether it's buses or trains, because that was important. And I was looking sort of central northern Europe. And because I'd spent 2 years in Lisbon with this beautiful view of the water, of a river, I wanted to be near the sea. So I went to a town, I booked a hotel for 2 weeks, just to scout the place out. Again, this was the first time I'd actually done this. Just to get a feel for the place, whether I would actually like it. And then from there, I would visit other towns and other cities, just to see what was out there and assess my options. And I don't know, for whatever reason, I didn't get a feeling for that place at that time. But one day, randomly, one of my lessons was cancelled, so it freed up my afternoon. I thought, what am I going to do this afternoon? And there was another city from where I was. There was another city called Coimbra, which is like central Portugal. It was never on my radar, but I thought, okay, well let's go there for an afternoon. Let's go to a new city. And as soon as I arrived, I don't know, I can't explain it. I just had this feeling. I was like, I really like this place. I think because I had no expectations, I didn't know anything about it. There was just something about the city, and I thought, all right, let's move here. So a few months later, I did. And
was that something at the time you thought would be long-term, or just another stepping stone?
What's funny about that is when I actually ended up moving there, because I mentioned before, moving is exhausting. But at least this time I was moving somewhere in Portugal. So I already, learning the language, I knew about the culture, that kind of stuff. But it's still a new city. And I just thought, I can't keep moving from place to place. And I told myself, for whatever reason, excuse me, this is it. You stay here, settle here, kind of like forever.
which was a really weird thing to say, because then I got all really anxious, because like forever was a big word.
Especially after the career and adventures you've been on.
Yeah.
Forever is definitely a long time for you.
Yeah. And that's something I've never actually considered. Well, actually, no, that's not true. The last time I'd considered that was Italy, when I was in Pisa. That was the last time that I'd considered forever. So I think somewhere psychologically it was like, oh my God, it's going to go wrong. So yeah, but I ended up taking that pressure off myself, thinking, it's not forever, don't worry, it's okay. But yeah, I certainly, at that point, I knew that I had to settle. I can't keep moving around.
Yeah.
But of course, that didn't happen.
It didn't last too long. So looking back over all the years, obviously travelling and teaching, how difficult would you rate this year?
In terms of my workload, it was the most difficult, the most challenging. It was a ridiculous with doing the CELTA and everything else on top of that I was trying to manage. I was managing a few personal things as well at that time. So just for the sheer workload, it's probably the hardest that I've ever worked in my life. I told you every part of my day, 7 days a week for 10 weeks, was filled. So yeah, in terms of that was unbelievably challenging. But other aspects were going really well, in terms of Language for Life, and I felt like things were starting to progress with the business side of things. So I think that kind of kept things balanced for me, sort of more mentally speaking. Mm-hmm. But yeah, by the end of that, I was exhausted.
And looking back, what did this year teach you about resilience?
Again, so I've been doing this now 10 years. This is my 10th year teaching, traveling. After everything that I'd gone through up to this point, that's all it was. I just built up this unbelievable resilience. So yeah, it was tough. There were certain tough periods, but I just knew that I'd get through it, and I knew that everything was going to be fine. The experiences had taught me, or I'd learned to just become unbelievably resilient to anything, sort of any challenge that I faced.
On the next episode, Kane heads to a new city, and everything we've talked about finally gets put to the test. Going back to what you mentioned a moment ago, obviously it was for 10 weeks, and it was obviously hectic, constant. What was you doing for the other 42?